In the past 24 hours, we've seen two pieces of news come out of the White House that has some serious implications for Bitcoin. The first was Scott Bessent announcing that the Genius Act is getting implemented as we speak. And the second was from President Trump. Trump's Trump-backed crypto company is looking to become a bank. I think we all saw this one coming, but I think the implications here is probably more so on the impact, which is only going to further complicate the whole ethics conversation in America. Honestly, it's probably like the final nail in the coffin for the Clarity Act here. But before I get into all that, let's zoom out a little bit. Are these two things happening right now related? Are they just coincidences? I know the Clarity Act is like done now. We finally can get it behind us, but it is interesting that the Trump administration, at least from the federal level, they are very active right now in embracing and talking about Bitcoin or crypto, digital assets, etc. Like they are still pushing really hard for this. Now, I know a lot of people are saying that, okay, Clarity Act is not officially over, but I think this latest news from the Trump-backed crypto company, it's not going to do any favors for the Clarity Act. So what am I talking about? Before I get into this news, this is something that we didn't cover on the show last week, but it is good context for the next story, or rather, it is good context for the story. So we had Bitcoin Mag tweet this. The U.S. regulators, OCC, approves Bitcoin and crypto firms to become national banks. America, quote, and the OCC, excuse me, guys, are once again open for business. You can see a little highlighted, should have a path to becoming a national bank. America and the OCC are now open for business. So the OCC officially said that crypto firms, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency said crypto firms can now become banks, which maybe you as a hardcore sovereign Bitcoiner, you're like, I don't really care about a Bitcoin bank. But hey, we knew that this was going to eventually be the scenario where the exchanges would basically become banks. We've heard Saylor talk about this, that strategy is basically just going to become a bank, the de facto bank. Remember, he tweeted last week, strategies the JP Morgan of crypto. So this whole progression to becoming a bank from crypto firms or Bitcoin firms, crypto firms, we've seen this coming. Now it's official. Again, we don't know what's going on with the Clarity Act, and there has been some rumors that the SEC and the CFTC are going to launch the real rules of the road so that we can have some clarity here coming from the SEC and the CFTC and not necessarily from a law. I have an update on that for you guys as well. But anyways, let's get into this. And I think this is really going to complicate the whole idea around the Clarity Act. As we know, we've been hearing the attack vectors come from the Elizabeth Warren-led Democrats. It's all just attacking Trump. Everything that has stalled the Clarity Act, well, not everything. There's also, of course, the stablecoin yield conversation, which, I thought that's what the Genius Act was about. But now I guess it's, holding up the Clarity Act. But the main sticking points were the ethics provision, or whether the Trump family is insider trading crypto, and how do we stop the president and all of the Trump people from doing that? At least that's what the Elizabeth Warren anti-crypto army has been saying, is that, hey, the Clarity Act is good. We do need bills. We do need some good rules here. But this bill, the Clarity Act, is what'd she say last week? This bill is created by the crypto lobby, and it's just too favorable rules for the crypto industry. We need good regulation, but not one that is lobbied by the crypto industry. Well, I think this is going to complicate that even further. So Reuters reported Friday that U.S. regulator approves bank charter for the Trump-backed crypto company World Liberty Finance. So Trump is, I believe, a shareholder in World Liberty Finance. Obviously, it's his kids that are part of it. It's also Steve Wickoff's kids that is the founder of it. So it's a little muddy there, right? That's where this conversation, I think, is going to really muddy the waters when the Senate comes back or Congress comes back and they plan on trying to pass the Clarity Act. I'm convinced that this is the final nail on that coffin. It's not going to go any further now. It's cooked. Like I'm completely convinced of this. Anyways, a national U.S. bank regulator on Friday conditionally approved a bank charter application linked to President Donald Trump and his family's crypto venture, World Liberty Financial, effectively greenlighting an expansion of its stablecoin operations. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency said in a letter published on its website that it has granted conditional preliminary approval of World Liberty Trust Company's application for a national trust charter, which it applied for in January. Now, here's where there's like the nuance and the details, and it goes, the charter, if ultimately approved at a later date, would allow World Liberty through the newly created trust bank to manage and hold assets on behalf of customers and settle payments faster. It does not generally permit deposit taking or lending like traditional banks. So it's really more of like a, Bitcoin custody bank, but I'm sure later on, maybe they'll figure out ways that they can do more traditional lending and stuff on top of it. But anyways, hoping to capitalize on the Trump administration's crypto-friendly stance, the industry has been knocking on the OCC's doors for such charters. They allow crypto companies to hold assets on behalf of clients nationwide under a single federal charter, as well as to provide other settlement and asset servicing functions, making it easier to court major institutional clients. So, as you see, OCC basically approved crypto firms can become banks. Now, they just gave a banking charter to World Liberty Finance, though there is a little something interesting here in the summary so again, conditionally approved bank charter application for World Liberty Trust Co. And then this one is pretty interesting. Charter will allow Trump family-backed crypto company to issue its USD1 stablecoin. Dem lawmakers had said the license is a conflict of interest for Trump-appointed regulator. Guys, we already see how this is going to play out when the recess is over and they come back in September and Congress comes back. This is going to be like point number one. We can't pass the Clarity Act because of these conflict of interest from the Trump administration and further from Trump himself. So, Trump family gets a banking charter for World Liberty Finance. But I don't think that's the whole story, as I'm saying. The whole story, I think, is the implications of what this means for the Clarity Act and for conflict of interest. The midterms, I've been saying, are just going to be packed full of these kind of arguments or speculations and these kinds of accusations that, the entire crypto push, the entire make America the Bitcoin capital of the world is just so that the Trump family can profit off of it. Now, are they necessarily wrong? No. I mean, remember the report that came out a few weeks ago? Trump made $1.5 billion on rug pulls and his crypto stake, his equity in these companies. So they're not wrong. He made a lot of money. But would the Clarity Act, if it says what we think it does and should, it would be a much bigger impact than just, lining the Trump family pockets. Hence why most people in the industry are like, yeah, maybe we do need some laws here. Maybe we do want some favorable regulation here. And maybe we don't want to kick out Bitcoin and shitcoin companies from the US. Maybe you want to attract capital. We are in the 21st century. I believe we're never going to go back into a world without the internet. Maybe you want, 21st century money as well to be onshored in your country. Now, again, guys, I think this is going to be the final thing to really stop the Clarity Act. I know there's a lot of optimism and there's a lot of hope that Clarity Act can still get through this year. I don't think it's going to happen. I could be wrong. Could be a Hail Mary where it does get through. But I think this headline is cooked. I think this is officially like Clarity Act's done. And remember what I've been saying about the fact that the U.S. came out so strongly towards Bitcoin, at least the rhetoric was so strong for Bitcoin, and now it seems like they are dropping the ball. Congress was able to drag their feet. They were able to keep delaying the Clarity Act. Depending on what happens in the midterms, probably nothing's going to happen further. We just got some press releases, okay? We just got some favorable Bitcoin press releases here, but did anything really happen? I mean, I guess Genius Act stablecoin. And that's where I think these two stories do connect. World Liberty Finance is able to do their USD1 stablecoin. And let's see what Scott Bessent tweeted this morning. Scotty B out here tweeted this morning. Here is Scott Bessent's Twitter, and he goes, POTUS and Congress delivered the Genius Act establishing a landmark framework and clear rules of the road for payment stablecoins. And Treasury is moving quickly to implement that framework. The U.S. Treasury welcomes input from stakeholders as we work to provide the regulatory certainty businesses need to innovate and grow in America, cement the role of the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency, and keep America the crypto capital of the world. So, even though the Clarity Act got held up because of stablecoins, I thought that's what the Genius Act was all about. And yet somehow it stopped the, how do you say it? I'm blanking on how we say it. The codification of Bitcoin being treated well in the US. And now the Clarity Act cooked. And now Treasury is implementing the Genius Act. And as Scott Bessent said himself, dollarizing the world with stablecoins. That's what's going on. That's the push here. So Clarity Act's going to be done. Looks like they're going to unleash stablecoins. And look, I know I'm really glad that I had Jeff Ross on the show. I believe that was Thursday. And I asked him the question, do you think that the dollar is dying? Or rather, I was kind of trolling. I'm like, do you think that the rumors that the dollar is dying is overstated? And he's like, yeah, I think the dollar is going to be around for a very long time. And as we're seeing, that's exactly what's happening here. They are going to dollarize the world via stablecoins, and we're going to be living in a bimetal era. It's going to be the dollar, or how's my boy Nolan always said, government fund coupons or Bitcoin. That's the world that we live in. And then, of course, there's gold. Like, central banks are still going to be holding gold. But I don't think we're going to see any codification. Probably not going to see anything coming out of the strategic Bitcoin reserve either. I mean, the only thing we've heard is they're just not selling the Bitcoin now, and we don't even know where they're holding it. Like, it's been a mess. It's an entire mess coming out of the Trump administration in terms of Bitcoin and crypto. And here we are again, not doing any favors for the industry. Now, that's looking at it through the more, I would say, the enemy's lens here of you know, thinking a little adversarial here of what is the impact of this going to be. From the flip side, like for the World Liberty Finance, it's kind of a smart move. You know, I'm kind of okay with Bitcoin banks. Obviously, I don't use World Liberty Finance. They have their own shitcoin. I do kind of like some of the framing and the rhetoric that they have when they came out. What was it like? You know, banking the unbanked, and you know, getting deplatformed, and the people's money. We're the people's money. We're the people's bank for the people's money, or something like that. So hey, look, I know that maybe a lot of people that watch the show that are Bitcoiners are opposed to banks. I've always thought it was a faulty assumption to think that we're going to live in a world with no banks. Again, I always quote the very first post from Hal Finney, and he's like, in the future, there will be Bitcoin banks. Some will be fully backed and some will be fractional reserved. But there is going to be banks. I don't know why a lot of Bitcoiners, and maybe this is a bad take by me, but it always surprises me that a lot of Bitcoiners think, and actually not even just Bitcoiners, and actually this is probably a bad connection here, but there's a lot of people in the political space that do not like corporations at all. And they have this view that we're going to be living in a world without corporations. And I just don't think that's how this is going to work out. We will have corporations. We will have banks. I don't even think that's that spicy of a take here. Like, there's going to be banks here. Yes, we'll be able to transact peer-to-peer and use Bitcoin directly, but there will also be banks. And maybe it's just a convenience thing. Maybe it's just people, you know, want to park their money somewhere. They don't trust themselves. Not everyone wants to be their own bank. I know that's one of the biggest memes in Bitcoin, but not everyone wants to be their own bank. And so I've always viewed this that there's going to be banks. And obviously, it is interesting that the first OCC bank charter is to the Trump-backed World Liberty Finance. Even though they said, hey, we're going to allow Bitcoin firms, crypto firms to be banks, to get bank charters. And it just so happens that the first one we hear about is World Liberty Finance. Maybe they're the first one to apply for the charter, but I don't know. All right. Let's not get too tinfoil hat on a Monday. We're trying to keep it professional here. But it is interesting. The more you kind of pull a thread on this, the more you're like, oh, yeah, man. I hate to say it, but there might be a little something to what Elizabeth Warren's saying. Oh, I know. Hold your tomatoes. Hold your tomatoes. That's why she's my favorite. That's why she's my favorite politician. It's because she absolutely hates Bitcoin so much that I just love to see politicians get that angry and pissed off and scared about Bitcoin. It gets me excited. I'm a freak. All right. Wait, pause. All right. Anyways, there is more updates here. So it's not just Trump-backed World Liberty Finance gets a bank charter. Scott Bessent's pushing the Genius Act. It's about to get implemented. There is a little update about this week. Actually, I don't know if I mentioned it last week. Maybe I didn't mention it on the show because nothing really came of it. But last week, we were getting rumors that the SEC and the CFTC were going to hold a huge meeting. And it was going to be, I think, Wednesday we were supposed to hear about it. And then Friday we were supposed to get like some new rules coming out of the SEC and the CFTC. And then nothing happened. The official reason is they're like, oh, we just weren't prepared, I think. But CoinDesk did a good follow-up on this. The SEC meeting that wasn't State of Crypto. Now, there is something in this that is going to show you that this week, potentially, there is going to be a huge meeting here at the White House. Allegedly, it's going to be one of the biggest crypto meetings at the White House right now. There's going to be a lot of shitcoiners and, digital asset people. But there is supposedly, as of now, going to be a huge meeting on Thursday in the White House in regards to crypto. But anyways, it is interesting, the official line that CoinDesk used here for why the SEC did not deploy these new rules. And it's in the first paragraph. So the SEC abruptly canceled a planned meeting last Friday where it was supposed to advance its reg crypto rulemaking and separately unveil its repeatedly delayed innovation exemption. The pause appears to be due to the Clarity Act. Because there's so much uncertainty around the Clarity Act, we're not going to do this meeting. Though I find that a little suspicious, considering that literally what the SEC was saying, excuse me, guys, what the SEC was saying for this meeting in the first place was, hey, I know we didn't get the Clarity Act, but we are going to deploy this regulations, this real clarity coming out of the SEC and the CFTC. So they were literally saying all last week, kind of preemptively marketing and hyping this meeting up, that if the Clarity Act doesn't pass, which it didn't, that they didn't even care because they were going to just launch their rules anyways. And yet now we're hearing, oh, we didn't do that on Friday because of the Clarity Act. It's like, wait, weren't you guys saying that we're doing this because the Clarity Act stalled? And now there's, I don't know, more uncertainty around it because of the Clarity Act. It's like circular reasoning. It really makes no sense in it. But anyways, going further, where is it? Here we go. So allegedly on Wednesday, we are going to see, it's Wednesday. Okay. I thought it was Thursday. Wednesday, White House will host crypto CEOs ahead of their meeting at the CFTC. And Thursday, the CFTC's Innovation Advisory Committee will meet. So there should be some big news coming out this week in terms of what the White House is going to do around Bitcoin and crypto. And honestly, though, this host of crypto CEOs, let me see. No, this isn't the right one. It's not the best group of people, if I'm being honest. Where is it? It was in here. It's basically like Coinbase and Ripple, and I think it was like Robin Hood, and just it's not a good group of crypto CEOs here. But so I'm not really holding my breath on anything productive coming out of this Wednesday meeting. But hey, that's what's on the books this week. There's supposedly going to be a huge meeting. So maybe let's not hold our breaths about it. But there does seem to be a strong push for Bitcoin or digital asset clarity right now. But I mean, it's really one thing that I've learned in politics since 2025, that it's not necessarily what the politicians say they want to do. It's not about the policy, it's about the personnel. And so that's usually in terms of what can the politicians actually do. But in this context, I'm using it as, okay, they're going to do a huge meeting, biggest meeting at the White House, but who's going to be involved? And it's like a bunch of shitcoin CEOs. So I'm like, the personnel in this meeting is just not the best. It's just like, all right, these people, I guess in terms of company size and how much or how big their market caps are of these companies, that's probably why they're being asked to come. But for the most part, I don't really see any true Bitcoiners. I mean, I guess Brian Armstrong's a Bitcoiner, but he's also been attacking Bitcoin for so long. And then do we even need to say anything about Ripple? Ripple's been unleashing straight up propaganda against Bitcoin for years. They've been there, from what we found out, they've been one of the biggest lobbying groups in Washington, D.C., essentially against Bitcoin. They're out here funding all of this stuff that's like fudding Bitcoin to the politicians, and now they're the ones that are going to be in the meeting. It's like, it's a bunch of hot garbage. But okay, it's Monday. Maybe I'm a little, all right, hold up, guys. It's Monday. Maybe I'm just cynical because the weekend was too short. So maybe tomorrow on Wednesday, I'll be a little nicer, but that's my general take on all of this right now. Also, couple of things to update you in terms of Bitcoin and crypto coming out of the U.S. Treasury and the Trump administration. There's something that I was trying to cover all last week, but I couldn't really package it too well, and there wasn't really much meat on the bone. And so this is an older news story here. But remember, I've said something on the show a little while ago where it's like, you know what's super interesting about the war in the Middle East? Obviously, it's horrible. You know, no one really likes war. It's like, you know, people are dying. It's bad. All right. But Bitcoin has been, I would say, the big winner in terms of what happened in the Middle East. It really has put Bitcoin on the geopolitical macro map. Like, as Jeff Ross was saying to us on Thursday, and I fundamentally agree with this view now. It's not just because he said it on Thursday, but that's just kind of where my brain has evolved as well, in terms of, obviously, in the context of what we saw in the Middle East, is that Bitcoin is truly now a macro asset. Bitcoin is truly in the geopolitical conversation. Obviously, the fees that were supposedly going to be paid to get through the Strait of Hormuz were going to get paid in Bitcoin. There was the Bitcoin-backed insurance kind of play that the Treasury tried to strike down. Well, this was interesting. I didn't really see too many people talking about this. There really wasn't that much meat on this bone, but it is super interesting. So this happened about 10 days ago, over a week ago. And it's Treasury sanctioned crypto exchanges funding Iran's IRGC and enabling illicit finance. So not really a good headline, obviously. It's kind of a bad headline here, but it goes to show that Bitcoin, the ideas of Bitcoin as a decentralized, non-sovereign money, non-political money, a money that no one can control, a money for enemies. It has been one of the focal points of, what do they call it? Operation Economic Fury. U.S. Treasury is not only kind of attacking the insurance-backed companies. They are obviously like Trump's trying. I'm really confused right now on exactly what the state of the Strait of Hormuz is. Trump says we control it. The IRGC, Iran's like, I don't know what you're talking about. We run the strait. So I really don't know who's in control of the strait right now. It's probably part of the fog of war. But anyways, this was on August 7th. So on August 7th, the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Asset Control, or OFAC, is moving against digital asset exchanges that the Iranian regime relies on to launder billions of dollars, maintain covert access to international financial systems, and support the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, among other terrorist groups. This action targets two major digital asset exchanges used by Tehran, along with the ringleader of a network of front companies operating across multiple jurisdictions, facilitating illicit cryptocurrency activity and sanctions evasion. Iranian actors exploited unlicensed or lightly regulated digital currency exchange platforms to transfer large volumes of digital assets. They executed this scheme through sprawling corporate networks and an extensive online gambling enterprise that obscured the origin of the funds and ultimately laundered the illicit proceeds for the benefit of the IRGC and regime-connected individuals. And I'll read the quote from Scott Besson. It goes, the Iranian regime's reliance on digital assets and shadow banking networks is further evidence that economic fury is working. We will continue to increase the economic pressure, whether in dollars, reals, or crypto. Treasury will hunt down and dismantle the illicit financial networks that keep the regime afloat. Now, you might, in the context of this, just think it's like, okay, yeah, they're shutting down an exchange. Like, what's the big deal? But I think what Scott Besson said there at the very end here, we will continue to increase the economic pressure, whether in dollars, reals, or crypto. I think it does fundamentally relate to what he said here this morning. We're implementing the Genius Act. U.S. Treasury welcomes input from the stakeholders. And we're going to cement the role of the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency and keep America the crypto capital of the world. Like, am I reaching here? I don't think it's too much of a stretch. So like, yeah, we're going to, and then of course the OCC bank charter. It's like, yeah, so a Trump-backed crypto exchange can become a bank. They're going to get their own USD1 stablecoin. I mean, will people use it? Who knows? But we're going to give them a stablecoin, a US dollar-backed stablecoin. Scott Besson's like, Genius Act's being implemented. Oh yeah, let's not forget that we shut down a couple Iranian exchanges to, as he said, ensure that economic fury is working, or that it is working, and the pressure points that they're hitting on, it doesn't matter if it's a dollar, the real, or crypto. So again, even though this context is probably not the most uplifting, you know, it's not really like a good headline for us. It's kind of a bad one. It just shows that Bitcoin is fundamentally, whether the Congress can get their stuff together here. I'm trying to be a little family friendly here on Monday. Whether Congress can get their stuff together or not, whether we will see favorable laws for Bitcoin and digital assets in the U.S. or not, it doesn't really matter right now in my mind, because Bitcoin is already in the conversation in macro and geopolitics. It's a de facto factor in what is going on in the world right now. And that is going to kind of lead into what I want to do. I'm going to do a little different for something a little different for the numbers today. But it's like directly connected to this idea that a lot of people don't understand that Bitcoin is fundamentally being used everywhere. Yes, the price is 50% off. I mean, we're pumping a little bit this morning, but it's like, it's not going away. And it's part of the macro geopolitical conversation. So even though you see a lot of people, especially coming from like the Democrats and the Elizabeth Warren camp, where it's like, oh, Bitcoin's fake. I don't know. Actually, were you guys on Twitter this morning? There was, I forget, so like World Gold CEO or something. And he's like, yeah, Bitcoin's going to go to zero. It's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? It's like Bitcoin's fundamentally been Trojan horse into the macro geopolitical conversation. It's not going away. It's here. It's just most people still don't understand how Bitcoin, and I'll add even stablecoins, how much use they are actually getting in pivotal areas, in critical areas. So will we see laws in the US that are favorable for Bitcoin this year? I don't know. I really don't think so. But will we see them soon-ish? I'm guessing. I mean, Senator Lummis said if it doesn't happen now, it won't happen until 2030. I don't necessarily think that that's the case. Maybe it depends on who maintains the presidency in 2028. If the Dems are miraculously able to gain power and we get a Democrat president, I think we could pack it up and we all might actually have to go to El Salvador. If the Republicans are able to, and I'm kind of leaning towards more that the Republicans will maintain the House in 2028. Who will that president be? I don't know. But that's kind of like the general trend that I'm seeing. 2030 is a long ways away. Maybe it's 2028 where we start to see some, maybe next year, who knows? But anyways, interesting stuff moving on the undercurrent in the world right now in terms of Bitcoin and stablecoins and digital assets. They haven't forgotten about Bitcoin. Now, can they actually do anything? That's probably a totally different conversation, but you know for a fact that they want to, and they are actively looking at Bitcoin as a fundamental pillar of geopolitics and macro now. So like we're in the conversation. We're there. Yeah, we don't get the best headlines right now, but it is what it is. Like again, I'm not going to say this time's different, guys, because that's going to make the price dump. But we are in a new era. This is a phase shift into a new era of not only how Bitcoin is perceived, but where we go from here. And I think that's one of the things that I know it's been super boring in Bitcoin, and we're just like, poking. We're the meme, like poke Bitcoin with the stick. Like, can you do something? But in the last 5 years since 2021, since we were at these highs in 2021, excuse me. Like the underlying foundation of where Bitcoin sits in the macro and geopolitical conversation has completely shifted. So tentatively bullish. Maybe you're not the biggest fan of who's using it or how they're using it and, Wall Street and, big Bitcoin. But it's going exactly as planned. It's like the, I always mess up his name. What's the Star Wars guy with the hood? It's like, it starts with a P. I don't know. I'm blanking. I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy. But anyways, it's all going exactly as planned. All right, guys. Anyways, I'm going to keep it moving. Again, I'm going to do something a little different today on the numbers. But it's to continue that conversation of just, I hate when I say it, like we're still early. A lot of people just still don't understand. And I had this, I don't know. I was doom scrolling on, what was it, Friday or Saturday or something, and this Instagram account came up, and it was about Bitcoin and crypto, and it just made me realize, like, wow, the majority of people just still have no clue what Bitcoin is or what we're doing over here. And even though I was like sad reading the comments, I was like, man, makes me feel good. And then I saw a couple of charts and stuff, so that's what we're gonna do, and then. Guys, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to talk about Saylor again on the news. So that's the layout for today's show. I'll be right back after our first break. Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own. Paper burns, paper floods, paper fades. If your seed phrase is written on paper, it's not really backed up. It's waiting to disappear. Stampseed's DIY kit lets you hammer your seed words directly into commercial grade titanium. Fireproof, crush-proof, waterproof, and permanent. Once your words are in the metal, they aren't going anywhere. Use code SIMPLY at stampseed.com for 15% off anything in the store. That's stampseed.com, code SIMPLY. Ron, what are you talking about? 61,200 was the lid for today? Wouldn't that have been the bottom? I think you mistyped. Anyways, the current Bitcoin price is 64,040, which is a 49.2 discount from all-time high. Market cap is 1.29 trillion, and the block height for Bitcoin is 962,918. Guys, I don't know why I'm such a nerd. I don't know why that's funny to me. The block height for real Bitcoin is 962,918. Okay. All right, guys. So look, I have my tabs a little different here, but I want to start with this. So you guys know I'm down here in South Florida. So and you guys also know I still like to doom scroll. Okay. Hey, I'm only human. All right. I like to doom scroll. So I think it was Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday. I went, I was like, I haven't had a ribeye in a while. So I went to the store and got myself a, what was it? Like a grass raised pasture raised, prime beef ribeye. It was like a freaking honker, like 2-3 inches thick. It was so good. Anyways, I made myself a steak on the this weekend on Saturday, and after I ate it, I just was doom scrolling. I just like sat there and doom scrolled. And there's this one account. It's called Only in Dade. It's one of these like what's trending down here. I kind of use it. I did that when I moved to Texas. You use kind of accounts like this to find out like what's cool, what's trendy, where to really eat some good food, and kind of just laugh about where you are. It's a funny account. Anyways, they did this tweet or post here on Instagram, and obviously it's funny because I'm not from down here. So there is, Nico and Sophie are from down here, and they always tell me their little the pizza or what they just post the other day. Probably. No, what was the post? I don't know, whatever. They make up words down here. There's a very strong Hispanic, Cuban culture down here. And they have the funny, South Florida, Miami accent. Anyways, I saw this and it got me curious. It was like, explain cryptocurrency in Miami terms. Now, obviously, I looked at this and I just wanted to kind of see like, okay, what do the masses, what do the normies think about Bitcoin here? Now, obviously, some of these are meant to be funny, but I think there was something that was interesting when I went through some of these posts. So they go, this should be good. So I'm going to just scroll through a little bit. I'll read the ones I can. And we go, keep buying at the highest price. Got to do it. We got this guy. It's the buying and selling of vacation tiers from a corporate job, cryptocurrency. When all else fails, simple fraud and scams, PPP loans. What do we got? Go to the arcade with a stack of quarters and leave with a bunch of paper tickets. Fake internet money. They go rented Lambo and having 6 dudes in a brick hole apartment. This guy goes mentiras y más mentiras, lies and more lies. And then crypto gas fees. All right. Anyways, it's gambling, but like it isn't. So that's what makes it different. Kind of good. Everything is literally the opposite. Let's see. Trump cult fools that lost all their money, and the Fidel Tron family fleeced them with their meme coins. Todos son unos come mierdas. Okay, hey. Yeah, dude, Ron Burgundy. This guy goes, bro, it's like you get a mini tequila bottle para nada, then uno dia, it's like a Don Julio Grande, entonces it's like a mini again, irregardless, it's good, bro, do it. That one's pretty good. And it goes, and for the smart ones that know how, oh, okay, this guy's an actual Bitcoiner in there. Chico, it's like money from Chuck E. Cheese. This guy's something that the majority of people is too dumb to understand, so leave it for the future generations. Anyways. Chad, I'm straight cooked by a chopped Riz or a Mogger. Please invest in my Chad Skibbity coin. Anyway, I'm not going to read all of them. But I was reading this, and I was kind of going through this, and, you know, the first part, just like kind of being cynical, is I was like, dude, we got our job cut out for us. Like it's like our whole thing when we started simply was like, we can orange pill the masses. We're going to make a show that's entertaining, and we're going to keep people up to date. We're going to get more people to buy Bitcoin. It turns out it's like, you know, everyone that makes Bitcoin content is just in an echo chamber, and the normies out there still think we are all idiots and that Bitcoin's a scam. It's fake internet money. It's like Bitcoin's been around for 17 years now, and the majority of people still just kind of think it's a scam. Again, I say it. I think I might say this to the Twitter team a little more than I say it on the show. But we got some young kids on the Twitter team, right? They're like Zoomers. And one of them, I'm not going to dox him, but you know who you are. One of them on our team, he is always like, yeah, I went out on a date with this girl. He's like, I think it went pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, dude, did you try to orange pill her? He's like, actually, I think I might have. I'm like, bro, then it wasn't good, dude. Don't do that. Like, don't do that. Do not bring up crypto or Bitcoin and the Fed on like a first date, dude. Like, let them find out on their own. Like, don't do that. And he was like, yeah, you know what? That's probably a good idea. Anyways, I think he went on another date, maybe with the same girl or a different one. He's like, I didn't bring up Bitcoin at all. I didn't tell him I worked in Bitcoin. I'm like, and how'd the date go? He's like, it went a lot better. I'm like, yeah. Anyways, I say all that to just say, like, if you talk to normies, if you're not just, you know, if all your friends aren't just Bitcoiners and you still interact with normies, you know, on the day-to-day, and you tell them that you're in the Bitcoin, they, you know, one, their eyes gloss over. They're like, okay, you're a nerd. Like, you know, or it's like, oh, you have fun. You know, your coin's 50% down. But it's still super interesting to me that the majority of people that I talk to, and I don't talk to that many people, but I have some normie friends, and they still don't really get Bitcoin. They don't really understand it. And I think when I was reading this post, it was one of those things of like, obviously it's a little trolly. That's, you know, that's kind of the nature of the beast. But I think it does give a good insight of, and I hate to say it, but just like the adoption of this thing is still so early. I know 17 years isn't that early, but the majority of people still don't understand this. And you know, I see Greg on in the chat. It's like they understand it. They just don't want to buy it. Could be the case. But it's one of those things like what, how did, actually, I can't even say it, but the Safe Dean quote, you will essentially be forced to use Bitcoin to adapt to the situation. You guys know the quote. I think the last time I said that on the show, we almost lost our channel. So I'm not going to say it again. But anyways, I found it super interesting just watching that and like scrolling through those comments for a little bit. I'm like, oh man, the majority of people still either like one, hate Bitcoin. They don't understand Bitcoin. They think you're a scammer. So the general understanding around Bitcoin right now is like, we got a lot of work to do. But that's, I think, where the opportunity lies, right? Because then I saw this and it was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm gonna connect these two kind of couple of Twitter posts here. Shout out to Sean. I really like this post. And this is how I know diminishing returns is fake. He goes, Bitcoin is 17 years old. Cars took 30 plus years to become mainstream. Credit cards took decades. Electricity took even longer. The internet took 2 decades to become normal. Bitcoin at 63K will make sense when someone offers you a house in exchange for 1 Bitcoin in 2040. And this is like an adoption curve saying Bitcoin at 17 years old, still saying that we're like an early adopters. And then it's kind of the S-curve adoption here. Bitcoin only 17 years old. Most foundational systems took 20 to 50 years to become everyday infrastructure. Adoption always feels late in the moment until it becomes invisible infrastructure. And, maybe it's not like 20. And that maybe I'm not saying in 3 years Bitcoin's going to be like mainstream and everyone's going to be using it. I mean, I would like it to be that case. Like, can we speed this process up? I've already like wasted a decade of my life doing this. Can more people start using it finally? Or maybe we just are the useful idiots, right? No. I'm trolling. But anyways, when you look at these charts, I'm sure you've seen this chart. We've posted similar charts like this on the show. This is why I don't believe in diminishing returns at all. Because not that many people use Bitcoin. I think I saw Grok. Someone asked Grok like how many whole coiners are there in the world, and it said there's about 917,000 addresses with whole coins in it. So it estimates somewhere around 800 to 900,000 whole coiners. Obviously, there's probably duplicate addresses where, every UTXO with a whole Bitcoin in it doesn't necessarily mean that those are different users. And further, just because there's a UTXO that doesn't have a whole Bitcoin, 100 million sats, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the user doesn't have 100 million sats or one whole Bitcoin. But anyways, I'm like, dude, no one is really using Bitcoin. Like, I know we have a big echo chamber, but when you really zoom out and you kind of get out of the echo chamber, you realize it's like this whole industry is not that big. Yes, we're at, $1.3 trillion market cap. Maybe, 600 million users around the world or something like that. And that's where this one was interesting. Watcher Guru tweeted, fun fact, less than 10% of the global population is invested in cryptocurrency. I would say it's even lower in terms of Bitcoin, just being Bitcoin only. So let's just, put on our little thinking cap here. If about 10% of the population's in cryptos, Bitcoin and shitcoins, and I guess we could add stablecoins in that as well. Maybe that was redundant for some people, but they've got different use cases. 10% of the global population is in crypto, the dirty C word. I would venture that out of that 10%, I don't know what the number would be for just being a pure Bitcoiner. 1%, 5%, somewhere in that ball range. And then you just kind of go back to that only in Dade, like, explain crypto like you're a Miamian. And I'm just like, wow. It's just like no one's using this thing. It's so early. Either we're early or we're dumb. But maybe it's both. Maybe we're dumb and we're early. Okay. We'll be nice about it. Maybe we just haven't had the iPhone moment. I mean, interesting conversation really in the context of the cold card hack or exploit. It's interesting how some of the conversation has gone in some circles where they're like, the majority of people won't be holding Bitcoin. Like, they're too dumb, and we don't even need that many people to hold Bitcoin, to really, dominate. And then there's like the kind of opposite view. I think this would be more of like the Saylor view, where Bitcoin, once it is used by people and they don't even know that they're using it, that's when we're really winning. But maybe it could also just be more in terms of what, like my friend Nolan's been saying. Once Wall Street is obsessed with it, and once the energy sector is either one priced in it or, using Bitcoin in some fashion with energy, maybe those are the only two sectors we really need to really take over everything. And Bitcoin going to, 7 figures plus whatever. And then we get everyone on there. Because I really, look, I know you guys yell at me and you guys call me a fiat maxi, number go up tard. But we all know the best marketing for Bitcoin is number go up. We all came when number went up, and then we stuck around because, we're dumb. Wait, we came for number go up, and then we became bag holders when number went down. But then you fast forward a little bit and number went way up, and now we're geniuses. But we're just back in the cycle where number went down and we're bag holders. But we're almost out of that. And then we will be geniuses again. Anyway, I'm rambling. But I try to do something a little different just because I know we all talk about Bitcoin constantly every day. It's my job. You guys hang out with me every single day. You're on Twitter talking about Bitcoin. You probably are in all the group chats and you only talk to Bitcoiners. Maybe you're kind of like me, where most of your friends that you hang out in real life are just Bitcoiners. And sometimes you do have to kind of like zoom out and be like, okay, I love Bitcoin. I think it's going to take over the world, but in a more pragmatic sense, kind of in the context of the culture that we live in, like where do we stand? And less than 10% use crypto. Adoption of new technology into mainstream is about 20 to 50 years. We're not even 17, or I guess we're 17 now. It's like it's a time thing, all right? And then we got all the Miami scammers calling Bitcoin a scam. Well, they really said crypto. Crypto is a scam. I agree. Anyways, I like talking to dumb Bitcoiners. Me too. Hey, that's why you're here, bro. Who's that? Hash beats cash. Dude, that's why you hang out with me. All right. Anyways, let's keep the show moving. I will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy across 3 continents, HIVE runs dual engines, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. Their AI platform is ranked #1 in the world for network performance, and it's doing something bigger than compute. It's accelerating human discovery, the science, the breakthroughs, pushing humanity further and faster. Listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker HIVE. Catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech on X or hivedigitaltech.com.
Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, cell towers can fail. Hurricanes, cyber attacks, blackouts, most people go dark. Satellite phones don't rely on local infrastructure. With Iridium, 77 satellites in orbit, you can stay connected across the U.S., even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123 also has Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags for your hardware wallets, and everything you need to build your own off-grid Bitcoin citadel. Go to sat123.com/simply and use promo code simply for 15% off anything in the store.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Keet. If you own Bitcoin, the next question is how you actually protect it. Keet takes a different approach to self-custody. It uses a 2 of 3 setup with keys split between your phone, your Key hardware wallet device, and block servers. You only need 2 keys to authorize a transaction. So losing one doesn't mean losing your Bitcoin. And Block only has 1 key, so they can't move your Bitcoin on their own. There's also no seed phrase to write down. Hide somewhere and hope nobody ever finds it. Recovery is built in, so if you lose your phone, replace a device, or something happens years down the road, you have a path back to your Bitcoin. And the Key hardware wallet now lets you verify what you're actually signing directly on the screen. So instead of blindly trusting an address, you can confirm the real destination on Key itself. It's self-custody designed around what actually happens in real life, from lost devices and mistakes to long-term ownership and inheritance. Get yourself a Key today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off your new Key.
Oh, that was nice. Also, guys, tangent here. Okay, down under blues. I see it now. Dude, my hair was crazy a month ago. That first ad with that long hair was wild. It got a little crazy. You know, you get used to things like that. Anyways, like, yo, I'm like right now, like, I think I need another haircut because that hair was wild. All right, anyways. Saylor is back at it again, guys. Saylor tweeted this morning, Strategy added $150 million to its USD reserves and repurchased $132 million of Stretch, extending their USD duration to 2.8 years, plus 41 days, and tightening Stretch BTC credit to 114 bips. Is that minus 4 bips? As of 8/16/26, they hold 840,447 Bitcoin and have $4.8 billion in USD reserves. It's actually kind of crazy that 150 million only added 41 days, but you know, he's got 4.8 billion USD reserves. So let's look into this. Here is the filing. So you can see they continue to dilute MSTR. They sold 3.4 million shares. Does that mean they're creating more shares or they're just selling them? Maybe I should clear that up. I always thought this number was, yeah, they sell more shares, so that's diluting the shareholders. Okay, anyway, and they didn't sell any Bitcoin. So that's pretty interesting. Now, I'm sure you guys are watching. Let's pull up the Stretch price here. It's been about a month and hasn't gone back to par, but it is what? Almost 95, 94.66. So it's been a pretty rough month here. But as you can see, I think I was talking with Luke this morning and he's like, what's the game plan here? Like, what's Saylor doing? And I think he asked the question, is like, is he trying not to sell, or sorry, no, how do you ask the question? He's like, is he not trying to sell the Bitcoin? He's like, I think the question was like, why isn't he just buying Bitcoin? And I think that's probably the question that a lot of people are having right now. Saylor hasn't bought Bitcoin in about 2 months. They've just been stacking cash. And that leads to the question of like, okay, so how, if Saylor is not going to just, what he used to do, raise a bunch of cash and just purely buy Bitcoin, then what is he doing? Obviously, he is trying to get the market to feel a little more comfortable with the Stretch product. And so not only are they doing, repurchases of the Stretch, but they're also adding to their dollar reserve. And it makes you wonder if that strategy is not going to go back to doing the same playbook that they did to get, you know, the 840,000 Bitcoin, which was obviously raise a lot of money and just buy Bitcoin. It seems like Strategy's new plan is to only buy Bitcoin through the stretch product, obviously once it gets back to par. Now, every move we've seen in the last 2 months is to essentially do that, get stretch back to par, $100 per share. And it seems like they might only use that, you know, stretch par play here. That seems like that's probably the only way that they're going to buy Bitcoin moving forward. Now, obviously, I don't know. I'm just mind reading here. That seems to be the play. But all of the moves that we've seen from Saylor is just to get the market and investors feeling comfortable with buying stretch again. Because a lot of people, I think, got scared or maybe started losing trust in Saylor and the AI product that he built. But I think it's just like, I think it's just smart business on his end. But it is interesting. Again, 2 months, no buys from Saylor. Well, no Bitcoin buys. It's buying dollars. But on the flip side, we did see it's not as big of a buy, but we are seeing Strive continue to make some moves here. Where'd it go? So here we go. Strive acquired, again, it's not Saylor buys, but they acquired 79 Bitcoin for $5 million, bringing total holdings to 20,246. So going over here to the Bitcoin Treasury, that puts them very comfortably in the 7th position. And I was looking at the Strive Twitter earlier, and let me see if I can find those. Yeah, here we go. So Strive just posted this morning that they have done 50 consecutive dividend payments. They're doing it daily, right? So today, Strive paid a cash distribution of 0.0516 per SATA share. The daily dividend represents an annualized rate of $13 per SATA share and an effective yield at 13.1 as of the latest market close. This payment marks the 50th consecutive dividend to shareholders. So anyways, reason I'm bringing these two stories together is obviously there is a product market fit for Stretch and Strive, or what's it? Is it ASST, I think? And the competition is interesting. Obviously, Saylor's buys have always been huge. Like if Saylor announced he only bought 79 Bitcoin, dude, Twitter would freak out. It's like, oh, Saylor's running out of cash, or Strategy's running out of cash. They can only buy 79 Bitcoin. But for Strive, it's a pretty good buy. I mean, I would like to buy 79 Bitcoin right now. That'd be awesome. Put it to my personal Opti balance sheet. That'd be awesome. But anyways, these ideas, I think, in together are showing that these dividend products, like digital credit products that maybe you're not a fan of and maybe you don't like the meme, but it does show that the market, like what they tried to do by tapping into those specific markets, they found a use case. And I find that just pretty interesting. Now, obviously, I'm not a Bitcoin treasury guy. I've never bought any Bitcoin treasury. Though I did have a couple of friends. It's not like a strategy product, but what's it? Is it Misty or MSTU? I had a couple of friends tell me they're doing like the MSTU product. I didn't understand it, but they were basically like, yeah, dude, I basically get paid, a yearly salary by doing yada, 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 yada. And I'm like, sounds too complicated. Almost got me, but I never did it. I'm too broke. I'm too broke to make it work. All right. What's my one MSTU share going to get me? I don't think that'd buy me anything. We'll use the Strive. Dude, I could have got 5 cents. 5 cent payments, dude. Can you even buy gum for 5 cents anymore? I could buy a chiclet. single chiclet. Oh, man. But, hey, look. If you are an MSTR holder, if you are a stretch holder or a Strive holder or what's ASST holder, I don't think there's really anything to be concerned about. Remember, I keep saying that we are in, again, a new phase in the Bitcoin treasury company. One, is there even a place for them? I think that's kind of been the conversation since last year. Two, can there be multiple strategy copycats? Well, obviously not doing the same exact thing that strategy has done. Should that be the new Bitcoin treasury play? Like, oh, we're just a strategy copycat. Like, unless you're differentiating yourself in the market like Strive has, you're just not going to be around, obviously. And then now there's like the new kind of, I don't want to say pivot, but the new angle of the Bitcoin operating company, which is technically a treasury company if you want to look at it a certain way. And then there's like the just mom and pop business, smart business, which is just roll your profits into Bitcoin. Once the number goes up, you have more profits. So will all of the other strategy copycats get wrecked? Probably. But will strategy? No, I think strategy is going to be a winner. I think strategy is the winner. But we are seeing there's some interesting competition happening. Now, I think I posed the question the other day as well. Will there be different strategies like based on continents? Because that was kind of the play a little bit last year. It's like, oh, we're the UK strategy, or, Metaplanet, we're the Japanese strategy. Is that going to be the differentiator? I don't know. I'm pretty sure you can buy strategy stocks in most stock markets around the world. Maybe there's some complications there, but I don't necessarily think that the regional version of strategy is the right play. But, we're not a Bitcoin treasury show. If you want the Bitcoin treasury show, go watch Adam Livingston. No knock on Adam. I'm just saying. We just like Bitcoin. All right. Okay. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you. It's Monday. I'm really having the, how it's Sunday scaries. I have the Monday scaries when I come into to the show. I'm like, man, the weekend wasn't long enough. Literally right when I feel like I'm settled in for the weekend, I'm like, I finally feel good. I'm reminded it's Sunday and I got to come back to work tomorrow, and it messes up my afternoon Sunday. I just start getting cranky. No, I don't. It's just, I need a vacation, guys. All right. I'm thinking out loud here. What if I just took a break? Would you guys come back if I took a week break? If I didn't have a show for a week, would you guys fill back in a week later? Or would you guys crash out and abandon me? Anyways, guys, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back all week. Well, actually, I'll save that for later. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Same time as always, 12:40 p.m., Monday through Friday. I know it says 12:16, 12:40 is when I go live, all right? So pop in at like 12:30. 12:30 is good time, all right? Anyways, guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be here. I'll be here talking to myself for your entertainment. I'll be dancing like a puppet on the string for you. I'll be dancing like a little monkey for you. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.